Coordinates. The learning objectives. By the end of this section you should be able to read coordinates in all four quadrants, plot coordinates in all four quadrants, solve problems involving coordinates. So here we have a cross. Where is the cross? Could you describe the position of that? Well, to describe or identify a position we must have a point of reference or an origin. In geometry we generally mark that origin with the letter O. The French mathematician René Descartes devised a grid system to describe the position of a point based upon an origin, and from that we have Cartesian coordinates and Cartesian geometry. So each grid line is numbered outwards from the origin, so 1, 2, 3 and goes on as large as your grid does, and likewise upwards. The grid lines below and to the left of the origin are given negative values. Again, working outwards from the origin. Now if you look on the vertical one going down below the origin, -1's missing. What you'll see quite often is some of the numbers will be missing, and if it's going to make the drawing too cluttered, we don't need every line marked on now. So as we go further in, you'll see less and less of these lines will actually be marked with their number. The horizontal line passing through the origin is called the x-axis. The vertical line passing through the origin is called the y-axis. The position is identified by how far away it is from the origin. So if we want to say where that cross is, how far away from the origin is the cross? So we do this alphabetically, starting with the x, and how far away from the origin is that cross along the x value, the x-axis. Well, it's 3 away from the origin. Next we find the y value. How far away is that cross from the origin moving along the y-axis? So it's 4 away. So the coordinates are written in brackets with a comma between them. So 3, 4. The order in which the coordinates are given is vitally important. It must go x, y. If we don't, it'll be totally incorrect and direct us to the wrong position. What are the coordinates of point A? So we think about it. We want that x and y. So here we have an x value of 5 and a y value of 2, giving us the coordinates 5, 2. What are the coordinates of point B? Again, x, y. So our x value is -3, our y value is 4. With coordinates -3, 4. What are the coordinates of point C? Again, x, y. So x -6, y -3. And finally, the coordinates of point D. Well, our x value is 1 and our y value is -5. The 4 areas of the grid are called quadrants. That's the first quadrant, the second quadrant, third quadrant, and finally the fourth quadrant. If you notice, they go around anti-clockwise, starting from the top right, which is the first quadrant. So things to remember when we're using coordinates. The x-axis goes across the page. X is across. If you remember that, the y's will follow. Give the coordinates in the right order. It must be alphabetical. X, y. Use the correct signs. So the first quadrant, both coordinates will be positive. In the second quadrant, the x value will be negative and the y value positive. In the third quadrant, both values, x and y, will both be negative. And in the fourth quadrant, it will always be x will be positive and y will be negative. So what I'd like you to do is to copy out the grid, mark all the points in there, and write the coordinates down of each point. So pause the video now, work through that. Once you've done it, restart the video and we'll go through the answers. Well, hopefully we didn't have too many problems there. So for A, we have minus 5, 5. B, 3, 4. C, minus 4, 0. D, minus 4, minus 4. E, 5, minus 3. F, 3, minus 5. G, minus 5, minus 2. H, 6, 5. I, minus 6, 1. J, 6, minus 4. K, minus 4, 3. L, minus 2, minus 3. M, 6, 0. N, minus 2, 2. O, 2, minus 1. P, 0, minus 2. Q, 5, 1. R, 1, 0. S, minus 1, minus 5. And finally T, coordinates 0, 2. Hopefully you got all them correct. If you didn't, go back, look at them. Remember, the most important thing here is we're getting the coordinates in the right order. It must be X, Y, followed by that we must have the right signs, otherwise it's going to direct us to totally different positions. So that was reading coordinates. Now what I'd like you to do is to plot them. So on square paper, if you draw an axis similar to these ones, so with that number range, and what I'd like you to do is to plot all the coordinates A to J on that grid. So pause the video now, do that. Once you've done it, come back, play the video again, and we'll go through the answers. Again, hopefully it wasn't too challenging. So if we look at A, so what I'll do, I'll flick through these and you can compare them with the positions that you've drawn. Again, hopefully got it right. If not, go back, do them again. Like I say, it's important that we understand this before we move on to more complicated geometry with coordinates. So, in relation to the drawing, we've got the 4 regions are called what? So, you can either copy this out and write it down, or just go through it and say it as I reveal an answer. So, the top right, what quadrant's this? It's the first quadrant. Top left, what is that called? The second quadrant. Bottom left is called the third quadrant, and even if you didn't know, I'm sure you're going to guess now, bottom right is the fourth quadrant. So the axes, we have 2 of them. The one horizontal going across the page is called what? The x-axis, and the vertical one is called the y-axis. So here's 4 more questions, slightly more challenging. Spend some time doing them. Don't give up on it. And with coordinates and lots of things in geometry, what you'll find, it's a lot easier if you draw a sketch, even if you're not asked to do it. It doesn't have to be massively accurate. The more accurate you do it, the easier it'll be. But go through those questions. So pause the video now, go through them, and once you've got answers to them all, come back and play the video. Question 4 is a bit tricky, but knowing the properties of circles, you should be able to work through it. So do that now, and then come back and check the answers. Well, hopefully you've done that now. So question 1, the missing vertex or corner is 1, 4. Question 2, the missing vertices, or the missing vertex of the rhombus is -1, -1. For 3, the missing vertex of the trapezium is 4, 4. And for question 4, what you should have done really is plotted the 2 points on there, and from the position of them you would have known. So if you just drew 2 lines from there, one vertical, one horizontal, wherever they met at the centre, that would have been the centre of the circle. So it would have given us the coordinates 2, 1. And it says if the grid squares have a side length of 1.5, what was the diameter? Well, how many squares was it? And then multiply it by 1.5, and it should give us a diameter of 12 centimetres. Well, hopefully you did alright with that. If you didn't understand anything in there, or you got too many questions wrong, it's important that you go back and watch it and work through it again. We have to know everything in this video before we move on to the next one.